Air raid sirens have been activated from the second time within an hour in Bahrain. Bahrain's Interior Ministry has issued repeated alerts asking residents to remain calm and move to the nearest safe locations. The heightened alert comes amid rising regional tensions and reports of ongoing missile activity in the Gulf area. Joining us to take this conversation forward is Ms. Malika Pandey, Foreign Affairs expert. Wing Commander Alok Sahai, defense expert, also joins us on the broadcast. Thank you to the two of you for taking our time speaking to us on Newsx on these developments that are extremely important as far as the world is concerned. Let me start off this conversation by roping in Wing Commander Alok Sahai into the conversation. And sir, in your assessment, how is this war truly evolving, and do you see that being, do you see this being a problematic situation? How does one resolve it?
Thank you for calling me. I would explain. I'll give some idea how this is evolving. What is happening? U.S. is trying its best to confine the area of conflict towards the Strait of Hormuz and nearby areas. It does not want the conflict to get blown out of proportion and engulf all Middle East regions for obvious reasons, which I'll tell you. So now when this Apache chopper was downed by Iranian UAV, US struck 20 Iranian bases, mostly close to the Strait of Hormuz area, like they struck Bandar Abbas, Kasham Island, Sirik, Jash, and some of the naval boats of IRGC. In retaliation, Iran has attacked approximately 21 US centers in the Middle East. Notable, these centers, important centers which have been struck are US Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, then Mawaqif, Salti Air Base in Jordan, where the F-35 hangars have been hit. And in Kuwait, there are two bases, Ali Al Salam base and Arif Jan base. So these are very important bases, and Iran has retaliated with more power. So the idea of Iran is that to send a message to US that if you attack us, we will engulf the entire Middle East, because that works as a deterrence. Whereas US does not want this war to escalate at that level for a very specific reason, which I want to highlight here to the audience through your channel. See, Tomahawk missiles are the main missiles which are being used by US in this conflict. US had 3,100 Tomahawk missiles before the war. They have spent more than 1,000 Tomahawk missiles. The production rate was 250 Tomahawk missiles per annum. After decking up, after making it 3-4 times faster, the production line is going to produce 600 Tomahawk missiles per annum. So they are going to replenish the exhausted Tomahawk stock in another 2 years. Similarly, third, the production rate was 96 missiles. Now, after decking up the production line, it is 400 missiles per year. So if the war escalates in Middle East and Iran starts launching its missiles and drones, how is US going to fight back? They do not have adequate number of interceptors in the stock. That is why US does not want to escalate this war, and it wants to restrict the war towards the Strait of Hormuz in a specific area with the purpose to facilitate the free passage of ships. It does not want to escalate the war. Yes.
Absolutely. Let me put out some more information and breaking developments coming in from Jordan, where the military says its air defense systems have intercepted and shot down multiple missiles launched from Iran, according to the Jordanian armed forces. 5 missiles were targeted towards the Al Azraq area, which was successfully intercepted mid-air. Officials say debris from the missiles fell in several locations, but there are no reports of casualties or property damage. Military engineering teams have now been deployed to secure remnants and ensure that the area is safe, while Jordan has placed its armed forces on the highest level of readiness amid rising regional tensions. Let me go across to Ms. Malika Pandey to get in a word from her. And ma'am, your perspectives on the fact that Jordan and Bahrain are now experiencing direct Iranian missile strikes, and they're on alert due to hosting US military assets. How long do these countries potentially maintain internal stability?
Good morning, Ashabri. We are sitting on 102nd day of the war, and it's head-spinning announcements that are going on by our content creator Donald Trump, where he discusses. At one point, he makes this announcement that okay, we are potentially at a war, and then he says no, we are nearing peace, we are nearing deals, and then there's some deal, and then the other time we hear him scold. Netanyahu, well, at the same time, we are seeing that there are a barrage of missiles and attacks on Iran as well, on their desalination tank. Whereas we are also seeing, him saying that we have wiped off the IRGC completely, we have wiped off their navy. Then where are the barrage of missiles coming from? In Jordan military bases, in Kuwait, and Qatar might be next. So this is a spillover effect, and it's gravely concerning that how US overestimated its power over Iran. I mean, this is the same Iran that US had fought in 1980s. It was a 10-year, a decade-long war that they had stretched when US was backing Iraq and Saddam Hussein, and it was a ceasefire after 10 years.
The drone was brought down after entering Iranian airspace with air defense systems engaging and destroying the aircraft. Let me get a perspective from Wing Commander Alok Sahai on that front. And sir, I'd like to understand from you. This is not the first time that we're speaking about the MQ-9 when it comes to the West Asia war. What more can you tell us about the defense capabilities that it holds?
See, the very fact that MQ-9 Reaper is being shot dead in very often, this explains that US is very extensively trying to map the latest locations of interest in Iran. And that is why these MQ-9 Reapers are getting shot down in such a big number. So preparations are on from both the sides. There's no doubt about it. The downing of Apache helicopter is also a big escalation point where US has tried to put across Iran that, look, we will not take it low. But in my opinion, US will not try to escalate this war beyond a certain limits because it simply cannot stop the attacks of Iranian attacks of missiles and drones. And why Iran is still having this capacity to retaliate is the fact that they have kept all these missiles and drones in underground cities and tunnels, which are approximately from 400 to 500 meters up to 1.5 kilometers underground. And the biggest bunker buster bombs, that is GBU-57, can penetrate only up to 60 meters. So that can very well explain why Iran is able to protect all its lethal drones and lethal missiles safe. And this is what is creating trouble for the US, because the US can destroy the overground structures, but so far they have not got the clue how to destroy their big storage and missile making factories which are underground. They have not been successful in this. And that is why Iran still has the capabilities to launch massive retaliatory attacks to which US doesn't have answer. Moreover, the US situation is more precarious because it is running short of anti-missile interceptors. That is the problem. So the war is going in a very unorganized manner because on the one hand, if you see, Israel is not stopping its actions in Lebanon. They have crossed the Little River, and there is a threat that they may launch some of the centers which are in Beirut. So, and if that happens, and if Israelis aggressive attacks in Lebanon continues beyond Little River, then Iran probably will not stop. Iran will escalate this war because that is the only thing which works as a deterrence. So it is a very complicated situation, no doubt. Israel is very clear that it will not stop till Hezbollahs are totally destroyed. And if Iran intervenes, probably Israel will take Iran alone if US does not support back. And US is definitely in a very tight position, yes.
All right, let me put out some more breaking news that we're tracking. Developments coming in from the Middle East, where both the United States and Iran are signaling interest in de-escalation following a fresh cycle of reciprocal strikes. According to regional diplomatic inputs, back-channel communications are underway to prevent the situation from spiraling into a full-scale conflict or all-out war. The latest tensions were triggered after a series of missiles and airstrikes exchanged between both the sides across multiple locations in the Gulf region. While both US and Iran continue to maintain their military posture, officials are now reportedly exploring options to reduce hostilities and avoid further escalation. A word from Malika Pandey on that front, and I'd like to understand from you. Although there are a lot of conversations on de-escalation happening parallelly, is there a possibility of achieving it in the next week or so? Or how do you essentially view it, given the context today?
The likelihood of that positive outcome to all these back channel talks mediated by Pakistan is very slim, because what we are seeing is that either it will result in a hollow deal or it will be a successful outcome. Like I said, it's going to be very slim chances. But what we are right now assessing is that whenever there is a deal between Iran and the US, Israel manages to destroy the status quo and attack Lebanon or Iran, and there we are back to square one. So it's not only between the two countries that this should happen. I think Israel and US need to be a bit more coordinated in terms of diplomacy and in terms of these attacks as well, because Asha, we are seeing that whenever, be it last year's peace talks at Oman, this year peace talks, 3-4 rounds of peace talks, there's a deep mistrust which has developed between Iran and the US. I mean, Iran doesn't trust the US anymore, because whenever they're closer to the deal, Israel somehow attacks and the US cannot stop that. There are war of words and exchanges, heated exchanges between the PM of Israel and Donald Trump. But on paper, everything goes back. I mean, we are seeing both of these countries attack Iran, a barrage of missiles getting exchanged. So positive outcome is very slim. What is going to happen, and what I personally feel, that in the coming weeks, the new normal will be how Iran is going to weaponize Strait of Hormuz for its own interest, for its own economic health, because US is not going to give them $270 billion of cash for rebuilding that they've asked, for reconstruction and rebuilding. And US is neither going to remove any sanctions from them. So to build their own economic health, these guys are going to use Strait of Hormuz as their new weapon now.
All right, absolutely. Stay on with us. Let's put out some more information on our screens. Iran's, I beg your pardon, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has released footage and statements claiming fresh missiles attacks on US targets across the Gulf region. The IRGC has said that its forces carried out strikes overnight, accompanied by dramatic messaging warning of continued escalation. In its statement, the IRGC issued strong language saying that its operations will continue until destruction and expulsion of the US forces from the region. Let me get into word from Wing Commander Alok Sahai over here. Sir, just taking from the tonality that has been put out as far as the IRGC statement is concerned, they're making it abundantly clear that operations will continue until destruction and expulsion of the US forces. In the backdrop of such statements that have been put out, what is then the possibility of some sort of a ceasefire, of the fact that, of course, I was talking to Malika also about this, to douse the situation, considering the fact that it's completely out of place. Where does that positive outlook stand in the midst of this?
Yes, the situation is indications we are getting is very contradictory, because the last weekend when the US destroyed some of the important radar and communication centers in and around the Strait of Hormuz, and they blocked the channel of supplying their cash through a back channel cryptocurrency network in the black market. That channel has been successfully blocked by US. during this weekend. Thereafter, the choking effect on Iran is a little more. So we were expecting that probably Iran will succumb to the pressures and it will agree to certain tough conditions in the negotiations. And that indication was evident just a couple of days back when Israel launched a retaliatory attack on Iran. So thereafter, on the intervention of Mr. Trump, both the parties declared, okay, we will not have further attacks. And Iran immediately agreed not to further attack. So that was the first time, just a day before yesterday, when Iran accepted that it will not attack Israel if it does not launch further. So, but now during this strike, yesterday and today morning, the statements of IRGC is very contradictory. It shows that they are still very aggressive and they want the US to vacate Middle East totally. And they want to put the pressure on the US when the US is on the back foot. They know it. They know very well that the US cannot stop their barrage of missiles and drones in wider areas. So that is why Iran is putting that pressure. On top of this, there is another fact we should not forget, that the leaders who are leading Iran in IRGC or the political leaders, they are religious fundamentalists and they are very suicidal in nature. So they would with that kind of mindset, they rather accept death than to accept the humiliation and defeat. So if that be the case, then I see a very grim future in the Middle East. Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's put out some more information on our screens and breaking developments coming in from Bahrain, where multiple powerful explosions and tremors have been reported during what is being described as a new wave of Iranian strikes. Residents in several areas say they felt the ground shake following the blasts, with reports suggesting impact across parts of the country. There are also claims that no warning sirens were heard before the explosion, and the visuals are, of course, right there on your screens. Let's put out some more information that we're tracking. Aviation turbine fuel prices have been sharply increased by 10% for domestic carriers. Under the revised pricing, jet fuel will now cost around rupees 115 per litre, up from the earlier rate of 104.927 rupees per litre. City-wise ATF prices have been revised to 115 rupees per litre in Delhi, 114.5 rupees in Mumbai and 139 rupees per litre in Chennai. The hike is expected to raise operating costs for airlines and may have a cascading impact on airfares in the coming days. Malika Pandey, let's get in a word from you over here, because it's the common man that has to pay a big price when it boils down to a war. We are seeing the fuel prices rise, the skyrocket numbers. How do you see this all panning out on that front? When does it go back to normal?
After the mounting tit-for-tat campaign between both the countries, what is happening is that it is affecting our kitchen and our wallets. That has the worst hit, because what has happened is that the world's 85% of global energy, which was coming from the Strait, from the Suez Canal, everything is affected right now. You know, these ship insurers don't want to go out there. They don't want to send their ships. And even if we are diversifying the amount of oil that we purchase, India has the worst hit in terms of equity. The market, the traders in India have the worst hit globally. India last year used to rank 4th in terms of GDP. Now it has fallen to 6th place. The rupee is on a decline. The government is doing a fantastic job in insulating us from the consequences, but it's not going to be for a long time. The government has done its bit. Now it's high time for the citizen to do their bits, and there has been an entire advisory which has been, sanctioned by the ministerial level as well, where the citizens are appealed that, carpool, use less fuel, try to save in as much energy as possible, because we have 1.4 billion people that are going to be affected by this, and constant fuel rise. I mean, it's the 4th or 5th rise this month. So we are going to see these mounting effects on our kitchen and our wallet both. And there was this one statement I remember by the Qatar Energy Oilfield CEO where he says that 17% of our entire gas field is not going to be fully functional for the next 5 years. So we are successively, because all these reserves are going to get over at one point. All the government subsidies, how much the government tried to cushion us, are going to get over at some point. Diversification, yes, we are buying 40% of our oil from Russia. We are also diversifying it with Venezuela, with EU, but that also increases the freight cost. So it's going to really affect our kitchen and wallet, Ashavri, in the days to come.
Absolutely. Malika Pandey, Wing Commander Lok Sahai, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, sharing our valuable insights and perspectives with us on Newsx.